Hello, everybody. Long time no see. Alter a little bit of sound adjustment, and I think we're ready to go. If anybody just wondering, um, do I sound more crisp today? Crisp today. I did get myself a mic. I got myself a mic, and so I could actually, so you wouldn't able to hear the fan in my background if my fan starts going off like crazy. I know. ASMR wise, for drawing streams, I'm not gonna use my mic, but like I bought the mic because I wanted reading streams. Yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh. Because I want to do reading streams, I bought the mic because I want to do reading streams. So yeah, okay, without further ado, let's get started. This stream is read by yours truly and sponsored by no one. So let's get towards it. Chapter 5 of Herscherik. Herscherik. Chapter 5. The crew. The way. Oh. Chapter 5. Let me just double check my other sources before. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Kudo. Okay. Just double checking. Kudo. Chapter 5. Kudo. The way out and the way out and the castle of town, part 1. Yay. Okay. Can I actually have we're gonna just have to hide the screen for a bit. When I want to have the sound audio notice all the time. Sorry, it's taking a long time, but I just wanted to have the, oh shit. Sorry, like I'm not supposed to curse. I just wanted to have to check. After the stream is over, today is actually just like a not only reading stream, it's a test stream of how the mic works. So yeah. Good morning, Mr. Kudo. Herscherik, the seventh prince of the kingdom of graces, who turned for the spring, greeted the intruder. Who is not an exaggeration to say he was already familiar with his face. It's also like talking to an ochi. Let's see. I just have to double check. Some of the names are different. God, I like this one better. Okay, like he was an old companion who was just coincidentally run into. However, this casual meeting was just so happened to be at midnight in the armory. Just so in the midnight. But the place just so happened to be the night's arserio, and the time arserio. Let's see. Gotta double check both translation. Thank you for your hard work at this late night. Herscherik gave a quick bow to the intruder and ran right back into his work. I had completely thought there was no one else would be here though. Half a year had passed by since the meeting between the prince and the intruder, whom the prince had arbitrarily named Kuro. widow. With a quick growth, with the quick growth of a child, Herschik's height had increased, and the immaturity was gradually leaving his face. Why was the intruder so interested in the prince's growth? It was because Kuro had been taking requests to infiltrate the royal castle almost half a year. This person, they can only request that specifically for infiltration castle. For 1 year, he accepted requests to gather information, and for another, he was recurring the proof of a certain aristocrat of forgery. He received such job from the underground guild and snuck into the royal castle night after night. Instead, instead, incidentally, this incidentally, his task this time was to deliver a certain lady's letter to someone in the castle with whom she was having an affair, as this lover of hers was a knight. He infiltrated the dormitory, which doubled as a storehouse and was next to the military barrack. Baru. But he had sensed the unexpected presence in the area and peeked inside the armory. Let's not call it armory. Let's call it the knight's archery or something. Just double checking. What are the other versions? Me. Utamen no mitsu. Seigai no bud tobaste. It's not a freaking ASMR though. Num num. Bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum. Dun dun dun. Sorry, please wait a moment. I'm actually I'm checking the right the right translations. Just checking the right translations. Where was the one that I was reading from? I felt like that read my mind and completely changed it. Come salty. It's this one. I need to double check. It was the last 5 months since I actually had actually went into it. I had to rely on other ones too, or else I was straight at the straight read at the read, or else I had to read the MTL, which is I think is not bad. I read through the entire thing just using the MTL. It's smooth. It's smooth. I just feel like some circulation just like it's gone. It's like you don't. It's like you just lose the delight of the originality. Woo! It's this one. Okay, I found it. It's okay. Where am I? I want to use the bathroom. Yes, military bureau. Military bureau. Should have been more consist. Let's see. Let's repeat the part. But he has sensed an unexpected presence in this area. He peeked inside the armory. And there was a tiny shadow darting about. The only one in this castle he could imagine doing such thing had to be the one he met at night, which is the seventh prince. In any case, the intruder headed to the knight's room and inserted the letter into the gap under the door. It was likely that in the morning the letter would turn the lover pale-faced, but there was no concern of Kuro's. His job was to come to see Herscherik after all. When he returned to the armory, he found the prince having a staring contest with a note with a serious look on his face. Recently, it's no longer a surprise to me. I keep finding the prince in these places. One time he was found sunken about the military bureau director's private room. The next he was inside the document cabinet of the financial bureau. Next another time was the royal castle's food storehouse. Um, Royal Castle's food storehouse. Even intruder Kuro, who preferred to wander about neglected areas, found this to be very weird. They were all locations so strange and out of the way that meeting someone there, even by chance, would surprise anyone. Not to mention, Kuro would bump into a child at times and generally plays generally unoccupied by a young kid. As a result, such encounters had become a norm for him. Coral look, took a peek to see what's on today's agenda, and it appears that the prince was investigating the armory inventory. Hershik was checking off the items in his handmade note, but it seems that of all of them that have counted for, caused him to knit his eyebrow. Unexpected, they don't match. As expected, they don't match. It could be just a late delivery, or was it a fast? What's wrong? Coral caught out from behind the prince, who was racking his brain over the issue. Hershik looked up at Coral and not at least a bit surprised. Mr. Coral, is your work done? Just make sure that nothing is bad for the country, right? Yeah, well, it's pretty bad for the receiver, though. To the lover of an aesthetic affair, a letter demanding offer of marriage is probably the worst. He was a knight who had laid his hand on a married woman. Unless he resolved this matter, his future as a knight was over. Well, that's fine then. Unless the action would negatively affect the country, his father, or the rest of his family, Hershik wasn't particularly concerned. Moreover, he didn't think Cora would easily answer him if such was the case. Besides, there were hardly any fallout from Cora's contract work during this half year, and since this was Cora's livelihood, Hershik had no means of stopping him. Hershik quickly lost interest. The topic. See what? The topic. Tom had quickly lost interest in the topic and decided to ask Koro for clarification on his current problem. Mr. Kudo, can you tell me a little about this? A little about this? It doesn't matter if it's just general. And does the delivery of weapons and equipment take some time? Depending on the object, the stuff of the order. Okay, depending on the object, the stuff that the order of knights and an army used are to a certain extent higher quality, so it would take a longer time to deliver. Even 4 months? Koro answered the prince's question with silence. For the delivery to be that slow, it was certainly strange. That though slipped out through Koro's silence, Hershey took the silence as affirmation of his doubts. Even though the payments have been settled, the delivery is non-existent. There was also no traces of them being used. No matter how you look at it, this is a frosted transaction. Really, thank you very much. Hello? Did I accidentally press the button? Oh my god, okay. I did feel myself pressing the button, so I probably didn't press it this time. Where was I? Herschik was exhausted. In the closet he looked, the more he found. Pile of overpaid invoices, inv- invoices, invoices, and incomplete requests that was constantly uncovered, piled up like mountain. If this was ordinary business, we would have long since gone bankrupt. Though this might not seem like a problem to the finance bureau, as taxes and the national treasury were still exceeding were exceeding were exceeding projection 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 projection. No, there was also the possibility that the finance bureau was purposely overlooking these inconsistencies. There were they were probably fine with the situation as long as they were receiving the tax money. Oh my god. Okay, I added oh my god. Please don't take it as in this half a year, Hershey had continued to conduct his change in as an official odyssey, audit, internal audits one. In each of the bureaus, his conclusion were that each bureau was hiding questionable parts to some extent. But there was a conclusion based on only intuition, experience, and abilities of an office worker in his previous world that had cultivated while he was Ryoku. In this world, I lacked too much experience and information. Perhaps what he found what he found to be questionable could be actually quite ordinary here. In addition, there might also be a suspicious position that suspicious. I think it was the word suspicious position that would make anyone ask, is that necessary? It's pointless, in any other workplace. That is why he concluded that he must quickly bridge his knowledge disparity. Mr. Curl, I have a favor. I have a favor I want to ask you. What? To me, the most important thing in this world I need right now is experience and knowledge. That is why it's about time I move on to the next stage. Hershey looked up at Coral and tilted his head to the side, gesture appeared with a smile. It was surely cute. This was the first time he had visited the castle town. It seems it's flourishing, with many people all around. Stores were scattered here and there, selling wares, and cheerful voices echo out, inviting customers. It's the castle town! Hershey got around like a tourist. He had Mira make him some clothes that he could get dirty, and they were a bit more modest than the ones he usually wore. He hid his face with a hooded attached to the poncho-like cloth. No matter how one looked at it, he didn't seem like one of the children from the town. But it would be a stretch to assume that he was some young master from a rich family. The other day, Hershey asked Kuro to show him a secret path that would lead to the castle town. No matter how skilled a spy Kuro is, there's no way he could easily go to and from the royal castle that was supposedly had a barrier erected directly. As such, Hershey suspected that he might have known some secret and hopefully a safe route. Hershey pressed Kuro with a flurry of words, trying to blackmail, rather pursue him. This is the first time we met. I saved you, you know. No, the information I supplied you with later was make up for that. But I also showed you where the documents were, right? If I didn't point you out, you would have taken much more longer to find it, right? In the end, Carl raised the white flag. He knew that regardless of the rejections and complaints he gave, Hershey wouldn't give up. As such, he informed the prince about the several cracks in the barrier and one could go in and out from, and the one that herscherik should take. This is actually quite funny. um, it was behind the building that the house stood of laboratory and archives. The area now hidden by trees, and there was a waterway that no longer in operation. It was an unmaintained place where no one thought to go to. The crack was tall, wide as a child standing upright or adult bending over, and either could pass through it. This is actually quite scary. Anybody could sneak through that castle right there. Um, there was a pair of iron bars placed over the entrance, but as herscherik rotated to spot as Kuro had instructed, the bars were removed, allowing herscherik to pass through. The waterway was dried up and had been neglected for several decades. There was no dampness, and the smell barely bothered him at all. And when he again rotated another spot on the iron bars on the other side, he was able to leave the premise. The area in front exit, also behind the trees, were making it unnoticeable. Everything should be fine since I don't have afternoon classes. I told Mira that I was going to the library. While thinking of excuses such as playing hide and seek and or had a secret hideout in case of he was discovered, herscherik took out his first step out of the castle. The prices are cheaper compared to Japan. Okay, I don't or compared to Japan, herscherik compared the values went over the price tags than the previous one over his previous lot over his previous world. Take the sale of the red fruit for instance. This was called an apple in previous life and was about 10 copper points in this world. He wanted to look like a discount. He went to what looked like a discount clothing store, and all the clothes were 50 copper coins. If he assumed that one copper coin is equivalent about 10 yen, then 100 apples. And 100 yen apple could be considered to be quite a bargain. But the one store in the castle were 50 copper coins a piece. It was the 5 times the market price. The price inflated that was way too unnatural. Did this strange surplus ended up disappearing inside everyone's pocket? herscherik sank into the abyss of his thought and piercing sound of reverberating through the marketplace. Hey, this again? Yeah, look like the fork from the patrol bureau is making more false charges. The owner of the general store right next to herscherik said as a passerby. The patrol bureau and the commercial guild are fighting right now. I feel bad for that fruit seller. They say her husband isn't here today, which is why they're gonna gang up on. And during the rest of the conversation, herscherik jogged towards the center of the turbulent crowd, but his tiny body could easily maneuver around the wall of people who popped near the stalls. Just as he did, the red fruit threw into the ground in front of him. Please stop! A scream echoed out. It had come from a healthy, attractive woman, roughly in her mid-30s. From the looks of her sunburned skin and well-muscled arms extending her sleeves, it seemed like a hard worker, but there were still visible traces of feminine charms. It was a beauty, but very different from his father's consorts. Let me just go up. Okay. But this woman was now surrounded by 3 officers from the patrol bureau, and her face were wrapped into a painted expression. But you know, ma'am, you cannot access across the place, and your goods are beyond established boundaries. I didn't leave them there, but we saw you. But we saw them left there. And those were just your words. And there were. Where's the proof that Where's the proof that they were left there? Where was the proof that they were left there? The three men sneered at her words. Then conversely, can you give us proof that they weren't left there? In that case, it would be okay if we got a third party to wade in. Is there anyone here with proof that she didn't cross over the line? The officer from the patrol bureau looked around the area, but the curious onlookers who had previously gathered around turned away, avoiding eye contact. There was no one who volunteered himself. No one wanted to get involved. Alas, how pitiful. Herschrik sighed softly. He didn't expect the commotion to be something so easily to be understood. It it was like a third-rated play from his past life. One of them was sickening him. The patrol bureau was in charge of maintaining public order within the country. If this was Japan, they would call themselves police officers. Their primary job was to protect citizens. So, to see such stupid behavior from them would have caused only her to let all aside. I'm just checking my audio in the background. Okay, 44 minutes. Okay. Maybe the surrounding people didn't want any trouble, but it was becoming obvious that they weren't planning to help. Even though they all seemed sympathetic, in truth, they didn't want to be connected with the absurdity in any way. If you want to resolve this applicably, you can get the full details at the bureau, you know? Well, that's if you show us some sincerity. Asking for even more bribes. Herschrik was at his wits' end, looking at the corruption of government officials right before his eyes. If these men were supposed to be the most concerned about the lives of the citizen, acted like this manner were under the employment of the monarchy, then how must the royal family be regarded? Even trying to imagine that was dreadful. He put on a face like an employee of a prejudiced company. It would it could have been said that he was one that used to work in his past life's workplace. The impression of a customer or contractor had a company was influenced by the actions of their employees, and those actions were the facilitators for trust and profit directed to the organizations. Opposite was true as well. The actions of a company also affected the conduct and impression of the employee. To one extreme, this also applied to a country's government officials. How would a country hope to gain the trust of their citizen when their own employees acted such a way towards their people? Moreover, Hershik wasn't an apathetic and dispassionate person. He had always hated people who did such things, even before he reincarnated. Miss, I'm here. Taking off his hood, Hershik cheerfully jumped out the crowd. A friendly, well-mannered smile appeared on his face. Let the cringe sink in. I don't know. I think the translator wrote that last point. Okay, next part two. The noise from the curious onlookers stopped for a moment. The handsome and strangely out of place boy suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He was like a fairy out of a folktale. Immediately catching the spectator's eye, with shimmering blonde hair and calm eyes that were fresh green like feathers of kingfisher, and a handsome hue resembled the fade that announced the beginning of green spring. The parts he was wearing underneath his poncho would barely identify him as a boy. But no one would find it odd to describe him as feminine. In fact, there could be people in this crowd who misunderstood and assumed he was a girl. That just shows how much a pretty boy he was to receive such impression. Eh? The woman raised a thoughtful voice at the youth who called her out in such familiarity. But before she could even open her mouth to ask, her shriek spoke in a rapid succession. Father said, Father said that if the fruits weren't from here, he doesn't want it. Huh, Miss? What's wrong? From the questioning look on his face, Hershey looked around his surrounding, and changed his expression to a sad one as he spotted the scattered fruits. Though he had such a sweet expression before, now his face turned dark like a flower in a full bloom that was withered away right before its onlookers' eyes. All those delicious fruits drenched on the floor, on the ground. Miss, what happened? Was there a problem? Shall I consult father about it? Father was acquaintance to the military bureau, so I'm sure he can give you some advice. The military bureau was the department that controlled the country's military and naval affairs. It was an organization that resembled the Ministry of Defense and JSDN of the Japan in his previous life. Here, it was the cornerstone of the country's military strength and was deeply connected to the Order of Knights and such as other organizations. He had noticed the patrolman's shoulder jump in surprise, but Herschel innocently raised his head with a curious look on his face. Misters, are you the member of Patrol Bureau? Father really liked the fruit from the stall, so I'm sure he would be sad. Having said so, Herschel dropped his shoulder in sadness. At this point, one could tell at a glance that this young aristocratic young master was feeling down due to the damage caused to his father's favorite store. On top of that, it seems the boy's father had some connection to the military bureau. Well, I was not lying. Yeah, he was not lying. Herschel continued his act while sticking out his tongue in his head. His father was the king. So all of his acquaintances in military bureau was actually his retainer, and his father loved fruits. Not to mention, Hershey had said a single word about him being nearby or anything. Nah, you see, I was just, with that, the government officials from the patrol bureau started mumbling incomprehensibly about something, but the crew dispersed and left. Originally, the military bureau and the patrol bureau were on bad terms with each other. It seems that the coordinated military bureau was affiliated with the Order of Knights, and the patrol bureau tasked with preserving public order and the country's inside were both claiming we are the one more fit to protect the country. From Pershing's point of view, each of their job was different, but to the concerned parties, the comment was a negligible opinion. Was that all right? Watching the man dispersed from his sight, Pershing asked the stung woman who had begun to pick up the products. Scatter produced products. Who knows? The question jolted the woman back to her senses as she panicked at the sight of a child picking up her foot off the floor. For the young master to be doing such thing, especially when this is my fault, I troubled your father as well. That was a bluff, so don't worry about it. More importantly, your goods are somewhat damaged, but can you sell them? In his past life, Hershey was brought up the mentality that he mustn't waste food, so he knitted his brow together when he looked at the damaged food. This is such a waste. Someone burst out into laughter at Hershey's murderer. Murder. Murmuring, Hershey's murmuring. Those were obviously words that wouldn't come out of the young master aristocrat family. With that, the laughter spread through the crowd of people like waves. They weren't sneering, but warm laughters. Everyone here understood that this was an act by Hershey to save a woman he didn't know. Nice going, Sonny. He wasn't a girl? Either way, you did good for someone so small. The rough man patted Herschel's head, and the lady clapped her hands in amusement. Herschel received a praise from one after another, making him blush faintly and embarrassment. Once the crowd left, he had finished gathering all the scattered fruit on the road. A considerable amount of time had passed. In the end, most of it was considered damaged good and had lost their value as merchandise. This really is a waste, Hershrick whispered as he peered into the box holding the fruit that was no longer fit to be sold. Oh, wait a minute. Did my music turn off again? What happened? Oh no. What happened to my desktop music? It's not working? Yeah. Oh, wait. So annoying. Can't hear. Give me my best. Where's my. Where's the sound? Okay. Okay, just wait a moment. There's no sound right now. I want to cry. Yay! Okay, the mic is back. Thank goodness. Let me just lower the music for a bit. It's equally obnoxious in my opinion, though. Equally loud, equally obnoxious in some way. Gonna raise the bar a little bit so you guys can hear it, and I won't be able to hear it. Yep. Yeah, full commerce. Yep, I got the music back. Okay, thank goodness. Okay. Shit, what did I do? I'm not supposed to curse. I'm sorry. Okay, where was I? Let's see. Okay, let's rewind. This is really it. Okay, up to the part where he was saying his ways. Herschel whispered as he peered into the box holding the fruit that was no longer fit to be sold. I wonder how many time and effort went to all of these. Even just growing them aren't easy, you know? Ain't easy. Thinking that, Herschel became angry. And his anger only grew more when his occupation noticed these from his past life instantly calculated the cost of the loss in his head. No, 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 no. Thank you very much. The store's proprietor, Louis, smiled sprightly as to say, but such things aren't worth to be picked up. Then, I thought she was okay. Sorry. No, no, no. Thank you. But such things aren't worth to being picked up. Then she presented one red fruit to herscherik. It's my thanks. It's little damage, and while it couldn't be presented in the store anymore, it's still pretty delicious. And this fruit is my pride. Recently, those guys have been throwing false charges as people are going around. False charges. Just lower the music a little bit. False charges. Let's see, where am I? False charges. False charges at people all around this marketplace, extorting money. They're the worst, you know. That's why it feels so refreshing. So that's how it is. Are the patrol bureau and the commercial guild fighting or something? Roger tilt his head to the side accepting the fruit. Yeah, apparently the higher-ups in the Guild of Commerce tried to skim on the public order maintenance cost to the control bureau and failed. Because of that, the harassment recently have been really bad and we're quite troubled. ちょっと迷ってるね。まずいこと。Louis' words stung herscherik, especially when he realized he had heard something inexcusable. No. Wait. What's public order maintenance cost? Protection money? Herscherik was once again at the end of his wits. Naturally, maintaining public order was the patrol bureau's responsibility, and the country was thoroughly in charge of covering their expenses. Yet, what the heck is maintenance cost? This was somewhat implicable. Title. But not implicable. Title. There was but a guild that pays still a guild, you know. Perhaps there was a possibility of these public payment to the patrol bureau were a fracasse and lowered the positioned government officials that were secretly lining their pockets. But if these underlings were left to do such thing, there will be superior. Then a superior will be unqualified. Herscherik groaned at the thoughts whirling through his head. Regardless, this meant that there was collision between the Control Bureau and the Guild of Commerce. The Guild of Commerce was sort of a trade association that organized the market, merchants, and artisans. The guild's main job was stuff like assuming, developing the industry, ensuring the circulation of money, the good of the market, and the management of its member. However, the guild's establishment, another one of its obligations, was to pay taxes to the country. Instantly, when it comes to the region, the lord in charge of the territory was the one to collect the taxes from the citizens under its land. Maybe they have been paying until now, but have become reluctant because their business has started to deteriorate recently. Protection money. It's basically like a bride. And one paid for business that went smoothly. It was the detestable thing, but it was something that couldn't be completely eradicated. However, to ignore their original job because they didn't receive right money, the patrol bureau was truly something. Taxes were also raised, making it even harder. Louis took a let out a deep, troubled sigh. I guess I just report this matter to the guild for now. Well, I had already decided to close the shop for today. I am going to talk with the guild. So wait here for a bit, okay? Maybe I still have to properly thank you. Hershik saw her off. He then sat at the wooden box and bit into the red fruit Lewis gave him. The fruit, which resembled the apple, was a size smaller. It was delicious, very sweet, and yet a level of sourness that was just right. Hershik didn't have the luxury to sit here and enjoy their food. Isn't this country really in a bad pinch? Biting the fruit, Hershik covered his forehead. Although this wasn't at the level where you can hit by and then it's just this at every step you walk, it was still a top privilege. At this rate, this terrible situation would escalate. If it was the case, the situation would have been treated on a level of great catastrophe. Catastrophic, that was the word. Great catastrophic. Even the place under the king's nose, like the capital, would be terribly troubled. Just thinking about what would become of the area was already terrifying. In that case, citizens that were pushed beyond their limit and and their limits and a rebellion, a, rebe- a rebellion, a rebellion could have occurred. The hatred would have been mostly shifted towards the king and the royal family. In the novel, manga, or game, the king who would torment his citizen would be dragged out of the throne and torture his death in the end. That is why aristocrats controlling this country don't plan to becoming king. Don't plan on becoming a king. His father sat on the throne would make to take the responsibility for any rebellion that might have occurred in the future. But considering that this was his wise father, so Laird, he had probably already realized it. Nonetheless, he remained on the throne in order to both protect his family and fulfill his responsibility until his death. I will definitely won't let that happen. Won't let them kill his gentle father right before his eyes. Anyone? Anyone here? Yes, Herschrik interrupted. He stood up and popped his head out his storefront of the chair. Replied, "Oh, you, Miss. Oh, Miss. Oh, you, Mrs. Lewis Chow. I didn't hear that she had a child, though. Mrs. Lewis went out to the Guild of Commerce. Is that so? That's a problem." A middle-aged rubbed his bald head. Oh, that wasn't me. Shut up. Is anybody here? Yes. Mrs. Lewis Chow. I didn't hear that she had a child, though. Mrs. Lewis went to the Guild of Commerce. Is that so? That's a problem. The middle-aged man rubbed his bald head. I still need some fruits, so I came here in a hurry, but... Well, you can leave the money here with me. Which is the one you want? Hershik offered his help to the old man, looking troubled. Oh, you saved me, little miss. I'm a boy, you know. Let me just scroll down the next page. As Hershik stood in the storefront and assisted the old man, customers started gathering in interest, and the fruit sold well. Hershik had forgotten how he looks rated and compared to the beauty of his father and brothers. But in truth, he himself was a handsome boy, and he was raised well and very sociable. Let me repeat that again. Hershik had forgotten how much a beauty he was among his father and his siblings. But in truth, he was actually a very handsome little boy, and who was raised very well and very sociable. To men, regardless of age, he would tilt his head to the side and upturn eyed. Mister, this is also delicious. I kinda want you to eat this. To the woman, he would provide innocent, sweet compliments, saying, I will be happy if this beautiful lady like you, miss, were to buy these fruit. Work hard to invent the product. He's so smart. The gesture he used to grab a poor man's heart was a fur from the captured target to a gal game one from his past life. This also used to Ikemen character's line and from automatic games to make the woman's heart flutter. His knowledge from his past life unexpectedly useful in this situation. Moe may be a common theme across the whole world, or rather, across time and space. やっば。ねえ、我のちょっと最高ですか。Besides, the primary reason reason that was probably the small child who was working hard to sell, there was also many people came and intentionally brought extra stuff. Nonetheless, the customers who thought the customer who thought that since they're dealing with a child, where is it? They would shortchange him and he wouldn't stop them. To such a bunch, herscherik would teasingly say, "Mister, isn't that a thief or someone who walk away with goods without?" Let me just say it again. To people who just want, to the ones who wanna pay less because he looked like a child. To those people, herscherik would just teasingly say, "Mister, isn't a thief someone who walked away with goods without negotiating first? Which is better, regional legal affair bureau, military bureau, or patrol bureau?" And that then would make them buy them at a ridiculous high price. For those people who made orders like, "I'll take two of these and three of these," two of those and three of these. Forget that first part, and I will take the four of those, and for these, forget it. In order to mess around to cause confusion, herscherik would flick the beads of abacus, abacus, yes. On the abacus in his head, he would hand over the goods and demand payment without mistaking a coin copper coin. Mistaking a single copper coin. In the end, even all the fruits that fallen were sold Auber for a cheaper price. By the time Lewis returned, half the goods of the storefront had already disappeared. "Welcome back!" herscherik held out a bag full of money and a piece of paper. Customers came, so I tendered the store. In the meanwhile, I more or less sold everything at a market price, so I think it should be fine. But Lewis opened her eyes as wide as she looked at the document herscherik so confidently handed her. The type of fruit sold, a unit price, quality, and total cost neatly listed at the bottom, and the total sum was properly recorded according to Lewis' memory. This was the highest sale of this month. Since chefs can cook for damaged fruit and all, I just sold it to them at a cheap price. I did ask for their address though. When Lewis looked at the spot herscherik was taking about there, and certainly a number of addresses were in the margin of document. Lewis was left speechless by his brilliance, but herscherik took her reaction as a criticism. "Sorry for doing something so unnecessary." "Oh heavens no. I was just taken aback of how amazing, despite your being so young. This was something unbelievable for a boy who has yet to reach 5. To accomplish all by himself. On top of helping me, you also attended the store. I had to thank you somehow," Lewis said, thinking deeply about it. But an appropriate gift for an aristocrat's son had a sign of thanking him didn't really appear. And then herscherik eyes twinkled at Lewis' work. "Is that all right with you? I come over and play and help out again?" These unexpected words surprised Lewis. "That's fine. Rather, I will be thankful for it, but..." "Hooray!" herscherik jumped around in joy. Lewis resigned. After all, the people himself said he wanted to do it. It was probably a praiseworthy part of the young master. But Lewis thought to herself that she didn't get the same feeling from the child as she did to the aristocrat who looked down at commoners. Ah, I should be heading back home now. Hershrik took out the pocket watch. Although he had left the castle a bit little past noon, but it's already turned 4 o'clock, and was a possibility that if he didn't return soon, he would be found out he had disappeared. I'll come again, Mrs. Lewis. I'll be waiting, and boy. And boy. Lewis held back Hershrik, who was starting to run off. Your name? My name is her. Hershrik panicked and swallowed back his words just as he was about to carelessly reveal his real name. It could have ended badly if he was revealed that he was the same name as a prince. So that's why he decided to use the name he was familiar with. It's Ryoko. It's Ryoko. Then Hershrik hurried on his way back. Seeing him up, Lewis repeated the name Ryoko. Quite an unusual name. After that, Hershrik getting a lot of tongue ties. I'm getting a lot of tongue ties. After that, Hershrik occasionally appeared in the castle town and stopped by Lewis's store. Would help out and contribute to the sale while gathering information. In the beginning, the castle town resident watched with curious eye at the young aristocrat helping out in the storefront. But before they realized it has become an ordinary scene. Within a day, the mood turned underwhelming. And on another note, Kuro was enjoying his long-awaited break and noticed Hershey actively working in the storefront and caused him to burst out laughing to the point where he had a trouble breathing. Yao games are games targeted towards male audience. Capture card at me first. Oh, this is trouble breathing. Okay, I am. So that was chapter 5. I read rather quite fast today. I guess I ended here. That was actually quite fun. And my computer only can go on about an hour. No charging after all. Thank you for coming. Today was quite chaotic, quite loud, and quite and reader serving. Wow. Anyways, this thing has an auto tuner, so no matter how low I get, it just adjusts just right. I'm so glad I bought this mic. Yeah. It's not that bad. It's under $100, but it's still worth it. I think I have a holding mic now. I guess I do karaoke of this next time. Okay, thanks for coming. Bye. And wink wink. Alright, bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Maybe I just turn the stream off right at the 1 hour mark. Shall we do that? Let's do that. Alright. Okay. So when it turns exactly at 1 hour mark, I'll shatter the stream off. Let's go. Yes. 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 友達と瞳合った人とだけどまだ飛び抜けない未来の世界遠い Okay 10 9 8 7 6 5 4 3